Today on my channel I have DIY gifts that you can make now for Christmas, and these are gifts that people will actually want, so stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we have lots of DIY gifts that you can make for your friends and family. These are gifts that they will actually want, because sometimes, you know, handmade gifts, they're not always that great. But these ones, I assure you, are going to please. I also have a download that you can get in the description below with lots of different things that you can use to help make these gifts, but I'll talk about those as we come to them. Let's get right into it. Let's not waste any time because we only have a few more weeks until Christmas and you've got to get started on these gifts. Okay, so the first one is candles. Now my daughter wanted to help me with this and I was so excited to do this project with her. We absolutely love Charmed Aroma, and what it is candles, but they actually have a prize inside. And once you melt it down far enough, you'll get like a little wrapped prize and there's a piece of jewelry inside. So these are some of the rings that I've got. I've got so many. I'm kind of addicted to these things. And it'll have a little tag with a code and you can see how much they are. They say they're way more than I think they're actually worth. But that's not the point. The point is that it's super fun to have a candle and then have a prize inside. So that's what we're going to do today. So the first thing you need to do is to get the little trinkets, and what I did was bought a pack of inexpensive earrings on Amazon, and we were able to use these in the candles and also in our next project. The first thing that you need to do is to wrap up the prize that you want to put inside. I found these little plastic bags that I had, but you can just use plastic wrap and then foil. I think it's best to have 2 layers just to make sure the wax doesn't get on it. It's a lot easier to take it out of a little bag than to take all the wax off of the jewelry. And then what you'll need is some wax. You can use beeswax, which is what we used. You can use soy, or you can even melt down old candles or some cheap tea lights. You can just break up some cheap tea lights and melt those down and use that wax. Whatever you have, it doesn't have to be expensive if you have some old candles, or you can buy some like cheap ones at the dollar store and just melt them down. You're also going to need some wicks, which are also inexpensive, and I found these ones on Amazon. You can buy a whole kit on Amazon as well, and I will link to one of those in the description below. Then you need some glass jars or some tins, or even go to the thrift store and get an old teacup. That would look really pretty to have a candle in a teacup or in a mug like they did at Charmed Aroma. You can go to the dollar store and get some cute Christmas mugs or whatever you like. The one I use for this candle, this is just an old yogurt pot, and I just washed it in the dishwasher and made it into this little candle. So it's super easy. This one is an old jam jar. Yeah, so use what you have. We did use essential oils, but I didn't find them strong enough. You can put maybe more in, or Amazon does also carry scent that you can put into your candles. Next, what you need to do is to stick the wick to the bottom of the candle and stick your prize to the side of the candle. You could put it in the bottom, but it's more fun when you get it halfway through. Charmed Aroma usually puts them halfway down, so that's what we did as well. Of course, you're going to see where it is, but I'll talk about that in just a second. We used an old metal bowl over a pot, but you can use whatever you have to melt your wax. Then we poured it into all of the little jars and let them sit. We had these sucker sticks left over from when my daughter was making another craft, so we used those. There's also tools like this. You need something, anything to keep your wick in the center, so that's how that works. But these little sucker sticks work just as well if you have popsicle sticks. That's all you need. We had a few problems. We're not experts, but some of them cracked, and so what my daughter did was she added another layer of wax so that not only does it look pretty, it gives it a flat surface compared to this. If you can see that very well. It's cracked and it's sort of got a dip in it. She also added crayon, an old crayon, to this to get the colors. I think she just added one and it made the color really pretty. Once they were cooled, we trimmed the wicks and then it was time to decorate. I tied some baker's twine around the edge and added this little key. My daughter put a jingle bell on hers and some stickers here, and again with the baker's twine. Remember I said that we have this prize right in plain sight? Well, what we did was we put our stickers right over the prize so you can't see where the prize is. Now I talked about a download that's going to be in the description below, and you can get this label, print it out on paper and glue it on, or print it out on sticker paper and stick it right on your candle. Or you can use any labels you have, any stickers you have, and just cover that up. And my daughter even put letter stickers and put a little message. And that's it for the candles. Let's move on to number 2, and that is bath bombs. And it's basically the same idea. We're putting prizes inside the bath bombs, but instead of candles, they're bath bombs. Again, we wrapped up the little prizes. It's just the same earrings that we got from Amazon, and we wrapped them in plastic and then in foil. So I just happened to find an older video by Vassar Beauty, and she did the same thing. She puts little prizes. She put little prizes inside her bath bombs, and she says that she has the Lush recipe. I'm going to link her video, and I'm also going to copy the recipe into my description. It's in her description, but I'll put it here so it's easier for you. But if you want to go watch her video, she's got more details on the steps of how to do this. So what we did was we followed her recipe step by step, added everything. We added a bit of color and some scent. You can also add a bit of mica. Just don't add any glitter or anything that's not going to be good going down the drain. So anything natural like mica or rose petals or whatever, you can add those to your bath bombs as well. We decided to use the molds that we had on hand, and those were teddy bears and Lego. These were the only ones that were big enough, and they're still not really big. The Lego ones weren't actually big enough to put a prize inside, but we were able to put them inside the bears, and they turned out really, really great. Leave it overnight to dry, and then they're ready to go. I tested one of the Legos, and my daughter is going to give the teddy bears to her friends at school. If you are enjoying this so far, please give it a big thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. There are lots of things coming up still for Christmas. Make sure you're subscribed and have that notification bell turned on so you don't miss a thing. On to number 3, and it is this cute little mug cozy. It doesn't matter how good you are at knitting. You don't have to be an expert knitter to make a mug cozy. It's super easy. I'm going to show you the simplest way, but if you are a seasoned knitter, you can put cables or any other patterns on this. You can make it a little bit more complicated. You can do whatever you want. But for this, I'm assuming you're a beginner, and I'm going to show you the easiest way to do this. Now, if you are not a seasoned knitter, don't go running to the next DIY. All you need to know is the knit stitch, how to cast on, and how to cast off. And if you don't know any of those, or you only know 1 or 2 of those, don't worry, I'm going to send you to Knit with Hannah, and she has fantastic tutorials, and you'll be knitting a mug cozy in no time. The first thing you're going to do is to find a mug. The size and shape of your mug is going to determine the size and shape of your mug cozy. Like I said before, you can get mugs at the dollar store or Poundland or wherever you live. It doesn't have to be complicated. Your best bet is to get a mug that's straight, because it's going to be easier to knit. Everything's going to be the same. But if you do want one that's curved, I'm going to talk about that in a second. Go ahead, but just know that it's going to be a little bit different than if you have just a straight mug. And the taller the mug, probably the easier it is, because if you have a really small mug, you're not going to have a very wide mug cozy. You don't want it to be as tall as the mug. You want it to be just a band around the middle. So if you take thick yarn and big needles, you really won't have to make a lot of stitches. Mine is only 7 stitches, and it was really quick to knit up. You want to cast on just enough to make a band around the middle. And cast-ons and knit stitches are not always the same size, so make sure you check back in after you've knitted a few rows to make sure that it's not too wide or too narrow. Once you're happy with the width of your mug cozy, then you can go ahead and knit the whole length of it so that it wraps around your mug cozy, it wraps around your mug almost to the end. You want to have a little bit of extra, and then you're going to tie it close or make buttons or whatever. And we'll get to that in just a second. You don't want it to be all the way tight, because then it might be too loose and it might slip off. Sometimes they stretch a little bit afterwards, so it's always better to go too small than too big, because you can always stretch it a little bit, but if it's too big, then it's just going to slip off. If you do have a curved mug, you're going to want to make your mug cozy to fit the smallest part of the mug. And then you're going to have a tie or a button or something. If you make it to the size of the largest part, then it's just going to slip off and it's not going to hold on. Once it is long enough, when it almost wraps around, then you're going to cast off, and next we're going to attach it to the mug. You can sew on some buttons and make some buttonholes. You can either make a buttonhole with the knit, or what I did here is crocheted little loops and then sewed them on the end. This one has buttonholes. Or if you're a beginner and you don't want to have to deal with buttons and holes and everything, you can just make ties. All I did here was loop a little bit of yarn through the ends on each of the 4 corners, and then I just braided it. Once I got the braid long enough, I tied a knot, and then I trimmed all the ends. Then it's quite simple to just tie it on. What I would do is I would tie it away from the handles, and then you can just turn it around. Sometimes though, depending on your mug, it may slip and slide depending on where the handle is. So what you can do is maybe tie it above the handle so that it'll stay up. And there you have some festive mug cozies. Fill them with some tea or some hot chocolate, add a box of cookies, and you've got a fantastic gift for a tea lover or anyone who wants to cozy up with a mug of something nice and warm. Number 4 is a print. Now you can do this completely DIY or partially DIY or mostly not DIY, and I'm going to give you each of the different options, so stay with me. This one is almost all DIY. All you need is a frame. I have a template in that download that I talked about before, and all you need to do is resize it to the size you want, lay it over the paper you want. Here I use buffalo plaid. I think buffalo plaid looks really good for Christmas, but of course winter, anything. So I've got a piece of buffalo plaid paper. All I did was use the template to cut it out. I did it on the front. Usually I would do it on the back, but since it's square, I wanted to make sure that it was straight and the lines were lined up. So I did it on the front and then I cut inside of my pencil line. And then I just hand lettered the Merry Christmas. Now, if you are not comfortable with your hand lettering, if you're not very confident in it, you can go and find some pretty fonts that you can use for free that are only for personal use, but you can use them. Personal use, you can use them with no problem if it's just for a gift. Type it and print it out, and then you have a beautiful scripted message, but your own cutout trees. Of course, you can use any shape you want, but if you want to use my template, then I use the trees. I'll list a few fonts in the description below that you can use. You can find buffalo plaid paper at your scrapbook store, or you can also find digital versions and print those out. If you don't want to cut out the paper or do the hand lettering, I have a print and frame version. This is also on the download. Just resize it to whatever size you want for the frame that you have and print it out. This is my own little design, so you can have that at the link in the description below. And then all you have to do is put it in the frame and wrap it and you're good to go. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Coming up next week, we are talking about my holiday routines, and then we are going to get into my 2021 planner setup the week after that. So you're not going to want to miss that. So make sure you're subscribed, turn on those notifications, and you will know when those videos come out. Don't forget to click on that link in the description below and download all the goodies to make these gifts yourself. You can click here on my little face to subscribe. Here are 2 more videos that I think you'll like while you're waiting for next week's video. If you made it this far, put a Santa emoji in the comments below. Have a fantastic day and happy planning.